Maybe like 701. I forgot I had to type in the title again. After it logged me out. Okay. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Around 270 Hoops podcast. I'm Luke Harrington. This is episode 2 of season 10. Last week we previewed me and Greg Glaser, who is here again with me. We previewed the OCC, or the Ohio Capital Conference. Today we are going to preview the CBC, or the Central Buckeye Conference, the City League, the Columbus City League, the North and South divisions, the Central Buckeye League, or the CBL, and the Central Catholic League, the CCL. Greg, how are you, and what have you been up to since last week?
Luke, I'm doing well. It's good to see you again. With the snow coming down, it started to feel like hoop season is right around the corner. Today was a cool day, signing day for a lot of the student athletes that we cover, and it's always just a cool moment to see these seniors who have worked really hard for, ever since they were probably in middle school to get to this point of making their dreams come true of playing college basketball. So shout out to all those that had their signing day today, and looks like we got hoops just in a couple of weeks.
Yeah, I've already been to a few scrimmages. On Monday, I was able to see Pickerington Central play Olentangy Orange. Great scrimmage and kind of a good preview of the top few teams that we believe are going to be at the top of Division One in Central Ohio. And then I was able to go to a small town game last night, Jackson Center. Uh, it was a little bit of a different experience. I really liked the small town feel, so I've been having a lot of fun as well. So for those of you who are joining our live YouTube, thank you so much again. Please subscribe to our YouTube page and also follow us on social media at 270 Hoops, wherever you get your social media. We're going to do our previews, and then we're going to do some fact or fiction, and then we're going to take some questions in the comments. So if you have any questions or want to get in on some fact or fiction, please leave a comment. Just please keep it clean. Okay. So before we get into the City League, let's talk a little bit about a new article that just came out about a half an hour ago on our Substack. And it's talking about a kind of a compilation of mine, Greg's, and Zach Fleer's top 22 teams in Division One in Central Ohio. Greg, do you want to kind of preview or highlight a couple of those teams?
Yeah, so I really intrigued by Division One this year. I think it's almost kind of going to be a reset compared to last season. A lot of the top teams that we saw win district titles, we saw a lot of their best players graduate. So could be a lot of new teams in the mix this year. We did put Reynoldsburg at number one. They were the state runner-up last year, went 26-2. I just think the return of Xavier McKinney and Jordy Bowens, those are two of the best players in the area. They a lot of experience. So they were our unanimous number one pick. But after that, we had a lot of different debates. And I think honestly, between teams like Olentangy Orange, Newark, Kaufman, Pickerington Central, Bradley, these are all teams that I think we're going to see in the mix and kind of consistently hovering in that top five. Three of those teams that I mentioned, Bradley, Kaufman, Central, only one of them won a district title, and that was Dublin Kaufman, who had the upset over Pickerington North. But I like what they bring back, and I expect them to be contending for a district title and beyond. After that, I think it's a wide open race, though. I really do. So I'm excited about it. I'm sure we'll have a lot of movement throughout the year. But I think it was a good list to start. But hopefully our readers will check it out and give some feedback as well.
Yeah, go ahead and if you want to read the article and various articles that Greg and I will put out throughout the year, please subscribe to our Substack. It helps 270 go, and it keeps us going. So please subscribe and enjoy all of our content throughout the year. Okay, so let's just jump right into the City League. So the City League North, the Northland Vikings, who several people around 270 love. Centennial, Mifflin, East, Beechcroft, Linden, Whetstone, and International. So go ahead, Greg. Can you give us your team that you think is going to win that division, and then your player of the year for this year?
Yeah, so I think this division, so last year Northland won the division, and then they, of course, won the City League title. It seems like Northland, for the most part, has really been the class of the City League North. I know Lennon McKinley has given them a run for their money. You know, we've seen Beechcroft in the past have some competitive teams, but I think you got to start this conversation with Northland. They bring back, I think, at least in the North Division, the most impressive group of returning players. That starts with Deontay James, senior guard, tremendous player, one of the best guys on the Vikings last season. I expect him to be one of the best players in the City League. Then they have a junior wing who I'm really intrigued by. I think he has a really good potential, high ceiling. His name's Owan Barugu, and I apologize in advance with any names I may mispronounce. I read them, type them all the time, but then when you actually have to speak them out loud, sometimes it takes a few runs. But Owen, he's an athletic wing that certainly got a lot of varsity run last year that I think will have to be a much bigger contributor this year, given the departure of Jaden Schultz. Jaden was also one of the best players for Northland, was expected to probably be one of the top players in the City League. But during the offseason, he moved. He's out in the DMV area. So that's a pretty big departure for Northland, in addition to Nehemiah McMorris, who was their top center last season as well. A couple other guys, though, for Northland that make them intriguing. We've got Vandell Slade. He's going to be a sophomore this season, really athletic, a little bit raw still, but he can definitely make some major contributions, I think, for the Vikings this year. Tawan Barber's another guy to keep an eye out. He's a commit to Kent State for football, and I anticipate him being able to play basketball again this year. And if so, he'll give Northland a huge boost. And then Northland did pick up an off-season transfer, if you will. Probably one of the most intriguing players in the City League. That's Farouz Zaire. Farouz, if you don't know him, he's massive. He's like 6'8", probably over 300 pounds or so. He started his freshman year at Columbus International, had a pretty good season, even though the team didn't necessarily win a lot of games, but he was one of their top guys as a freshman. Then something we don't see very often was his sophomore season, decided not to play high school basketball. Actually played in like the Columbus Rec League, dominated there, assumingly. But he's now at Northland, and just his size. I've seen him play. I mean, he's really big, and he has actually really good touch for a guy his size. Just with passing the ball, good vision. If he could just work on his conditioning, I think he also had a foot injury to start the school year, so I don't know how that's progressing. But he's someone I'm just very eager to see how he comes in the mix. So Northland, you got to start with them. But I really am intrigued by Centennial. Centennial had a nice regular season last year. They had a tough loss to Hartley in the playoffs, which kind of showed how they still had some ways to go. But they have some really good players. The first guy on that is Keon Bonner. Keon Bonner is one of the most impressive players in the City League. I believe he made one of the All-State honorable mentions in Division III last season. He's one of my favorite players to be coming out of the City League, and he's just a junior. But he's not alone. There's Cameron Johnson, who's a sophomore guard, who's just a really exciting player to keep an eye on. Angelo Diadalis is another guy that was one of the top players in the City League North. I believe he made second team for the City League. And then Centennial also did pick up, I also want to add Deshaun Fior as another guy for Centennial, but they picked up a transfer from Walnut Ridge, Maurice Hammer Jr., who was a freshman last season. He's going to be a sophomore. He was a guy I saw actually even play a little bit in middle school. A lot of talent, and maybe just a new environment playing with a really talented Centennial team will give him a little bit of a boost this season. So I expect Northland to probably win this division, but I think Centennial will give them a really good run for their money. And then I also don't want to discount Linden. Linden's been competitive the last few years and known to steal a couple games here and there against some of the top teams. So Northland, Centennial, Linden, I think those are going to be the three to keep an eye out on the North Division.
I definitely hear you. Just real quick, a question. So you said Deshaun Fior or Fiore, right? Did he transfer from East to Centennial?
Oh, my apologies.
Okay, because he
Yeah,
was at
no,
East
he's still
last
at
year.
East. He's still at East.
Okay.
That was a mistake on my part. Thank
Okay.
you for correcting me on
No,
that.
no, no problem. I was just curious. Yeah. So, talking about Fiore, I think he was one of the leading scorers in the City League last year,
Yeah,
and
you're
he
right.
averaged almost 20 points a game. I think that in his senior year. I think he's going to average about that again, and he may be the leading scorer in the City League.
Yep.
Um, I also want to give a shout out to Whetstone and new coach Javon Walker. He's a buddy of mine. I actually met him in a class at Ohio State in college. It was kind of wild, but he's the new head coach there, and I love what he does. I think he's going to get that program turned around. Um, but kind of going off what you said, I'm going to agree with you. I'm going to pick Northland to win the league again, and I'm going to pick Deontay James, the hard-nosed point guard for the Vikings, to win Player of the Year.
So I very much like that pick for Deontay. I would not at all be surprised to see him win that. Um, I agree with you that I think Northland's going to win the City League North and represent the North again, just because they're the ones that have had that experience of doing so. But I'm going to go a little different route for Player of the Year. I'm going to go Keon Bonner from Centennial. This kid's a stud. I think he's going to really catch a lot of people's attention this year, and he's going to be one of those guys that, if you really follow City League basketball, you know his name. But I think he's going to be more of a familiar name for all of Central Ohio hoop fans this upcoming season.
I hear you on that one. Yeah, he's real physical. Would not want to guard that guy. um, okay, we'll move to the South. So the South has Afrocentric, Walnut Ridge, South, West, Eastmore, Briggs, Independence, and Marion Franklin. So who do you think is going to win and Player of the Year?
Yep. So last year, Afrocentric won this division and fell short to Northland in the City League title game, as I mentioned earlier. They pretty much bring back their starting five, though, and I expect them to, quite honestly, dominate this division. They have just a tremendous group of athletes. A lot of these guys are dual sport athletes that are playing football at the next level. So, for example, we have Joshua Smith. He's going to be playing football at Cincinnati. We have Deron Gray Jr., who's going to be playing football at Bowling Green. Uh, Great football players. Obviously, that's their calling at the next level, but they're tremendous hoopers as well. Got to give a shout out to Rohan Hardy. I actually just saw he just committed and signed with Central State today. So shout out to Rohan. He's a fantastic player that will once again be one of the best in the City League. Then they also have Cameron Wilkinson. I believe that's how you pronounce his first name. He committed to Muskingum University, so another solid piece for Coach Bates at Afrocentric, and then Kyan Sherman as well. So these are all seniors that are going to be pretty much filling out that starting five. They're going to be very, very good. I expect them not only to win the City League South, I think they can win the City League Championship. I think they can win a district championship. I think they can win a regional championship in Division 5. So I'm very high on Afrocentric this year. Of course, though, you got to make note of Walnut Ridge, who has pretty much been neck and neck with Afrocentric in that division. Marquise Lucas is probably one of the area's best dual sport athletes. He's kind of the do-it-all guy on the field for football, playing quarterback and defense as well, but he kind of does it all on the hardwood too. He does a little bit of everything. He's just a tremendous athlete. I'm also intrigued to see if Dion Johnson, who's going to be entering his junior year, if he can kind of jump up to that next level that I think he's capable of. He came in his freshman season, had a lot of hype, played pretty well, I thought, his freshman year, but some injuries have kind of set him back a little bit. But I'd like to see if he could take that next step. I think that's going to be crucial for Walnut Ridge to really contend for this as well. And then, of course, they have LaShawn Saunders. Otherwise, a team I am definitely keeping an eye on is Eastmore Academy. They have a really intriguing prospect and Dakar Moultrie, just a really good size forward that can run the floor well. JD Bloomfield is another guy to keep an eye on. So Eastmore Academy may make some noise as well in the South.
Once again, I agree with you with Afrocentric. I think they're kind of low key loaded, to be honest. They've just got
I think it's high key.
Yeah, they've just got so many athletes, and we'll get maybe a little bit later when we get into like divisions in Division 5. I think they're gonna be very effective. My buddy Javon Walker, who's again, I'm shouting him out again, but he's the head coach at Whetstone. He used to coach at Afrocentric, and he told me that Rohan Hardy is the best athlete they've had since Dalen Swain. which is
Yeah,
phenomenal praise, and I tend to
sure.
agree with him. Just an effortless athlete that just kind of glides around, has a really smooth game. I really like Rohan's game. I definitely agree with Eastmore. If there was a sleeper team, I don't know if I wouldn't probably pick them to win this division, but I do like their up and coming class. Their freshman class is really strong, starting with Chase Hodge, who's just
Yeah.
a really quick guard that I think is going to play varsity minutes day one. But I am going to agree with you with Afacentric winning the league. And then my player of the year, you kind of touched on him, one of the best dual sport athletes in Ohio, or at least Central Ohio, Marquise Lucas. I just think he's a matchup nightmare, and he can just go get a bucket whenever he wants.
Yeah, he has just a tremendous motor, tremendous competitive side to him. I think that's a good pick, but I'm going to go with Rohan. Like you mentioned, he's just a tremendous athlete. He's on a really good team that's going to allow him to maximize his potential. And I just think we're in for really good things for Afrocentric this year, and I think he's going to lead that charge.
All right. I guess we'll address this question now since it just leads right into it. But who do you think is going to win the entire City League title?
Yeah, and I kind of guess already answered that a tad, but I think we're going to probably see a rematch of Northland and Afrocentric, but I think it's Afrocentric's turn this year. They just returned at starting five, and they just have. Coach Bates is one of my favorite coaches in the area. I just love how he approaches the culture with his team and gets his team to be able to lock in, and they just don't have a weak link in their starting rotation. Not to say Northland does, but I really just like what Afrocentric has been able to put together, and and we've seen them go far in the past. Obviously Dalen Swain was a guy that really helped move the needle, but this is a team that has experience going to the state tournament. So I'm going with Afrocentric to win it all this year.
I like that pick a lot, and believe it or not, I'm going to agree with you. I think if Northland still had Jaden Schultz, I think I would
Yeah.
go with the Vikings, just because I think they would bring almost everybody back except for Nehemiah McMorris, which is obviously a big piece to lose. But I'll go with Afacentric. I think they're deep, and like I said, or like you said, I guess, I just don't think they have a lot of weaknesses. Okay, moving on to the CBL, or the Central Buckeye League. This league consists of Columbus Academy, Bishop Reedy, Franklin Heights, Buckeye Valley, Whitehall, Worthington Christian, and Grandview Heights. Let's just, is there any other answer than Columbus Academy here for winning back-to-back CBL titles?
Um, I think Academy will win, because Jason Singleton is one of the best players in Ohio, but he's up for a huge challenge this year because Academy lost so much from last year's state runner-up team. Starting with the seniors there, I loved their point guard Theo Falkenhayn. He was just a floor general, super competitive, had a ton of experience, and I thought he was kind of the pulse of that team in a way. So I think losing an experienced general like him is going to be something they'll have to overcome. Not to mention, a couple nice, guys in the post. You had a guy like Anderson Davis, who was a really strong contributor. And then Academy, they took a huge blow when Caden Ivory went the prep route and went to, I believe it's called the Phelps School. And he was going to be such a great 1-2 punch with Singleton because I'm pretty high on Ivory. I think he's a future Division I player, even though he's only going to be entering his junior year. I think he's already starting to show that he has that potential to play Division I. So Singleton's losing basically his entire starting rotation that he had from last year, and a lot of the guys that he's going to be depending on to help him. They're football guys, and they're good athletes. Like Gabe Davis, Ray Perez, good size, strong, but they're not pure scorers. And so Singleton's going to have to carry such a heavy load. Is he capable of it? Yeah, absolutely. I think so. So to answer your question, I do think they're going to win the league just because Singleton is far and above, the best player in that conference. But Reedy's a team that I think kind of fits that mold of reload versus rebuild, and I think they can be competitive against Academy. I don't think Academy's necessarily going to probably go undefeated in their league. They slip up once or twice, but also at the same time, that division has lost some of the other teams I mentioned, Reedy lost some talent. Franklin Heights, they are coming off of one of their best seasons, even though like 8 of their wins got vacated due to playing an ineligible player
Yeah, that's
towards the end of
wild.
the season.
It's still hard to believe that happened.
Yeah, I mean, it is what it is, but they also lose a lot of those guys that contributed to that really strong season. Um, they also have to have a new coach in place because of that, so that's going to be a tough rebuild for Franklin Heights. Worthington Christian, they're another program that's got a new coach. James Story is taking over that program, and he's going to have a little bit of a rebuild there. Buckeye Valley, Whitehall, Grandview Heights, all those teams, I think they just don't necessarily have the firepower to really probably match up with a guy like Singleton and just the program that Academy has right now. So it'll be interesting, but I do think Academy is going to probably take that away.
Yeah, I think it's Columbus Academy's to lose. Jason Singleton's one of the best players in Ohio. I think a team that could challenge them is Bishop Reedy. They've done it in the past, and I think that they might be a year away or 2 years away. But
Yeah.
Reedy does have a couple good players. Mike Daniels, who's now going to be he's going to be a third year varsity player at this point. Is a good point guard for them. And then there is another Schaefer out there. So Caleb and Caden Schaefer, both were legends, Silver Knight legends for Bishop Reedy. There's another one that's a freshman, and there's a chance that he might be the most skilled of all three. Camden, or his nickname is Fluff, so
Okay.
Fluff Schaefer.
Okay.
Um, a great 3-point shot. We'll see how he develops. But he's got a chance to be special. But I'm gonna take Columbus Academy. My player of the year is Jason Singleton. I think this was actually the easiest one to pick of the ones that we're doing today. Are you gonna take Singleton as player of the year as well?
Yeah, I'm going to play it safe and go with Singleton on that one.
Okay. Don't blame you there. Okay. Let's move on to the Central Buckeye Conference, or the CBC. For all of those who live kind of on the west side of Columbus and even a little bit further out. So the Kenton Trail division has Jonathan Alder, Kenton Ridge, Bell Fountain, London, Tecumseh, and Urbana. You got any thoughts on this, or do you just want me to kind of take this one?
I admittedly, a lot of my coverage doesn't really span out where I'm too familiar with this conference. I know Jonathan Alder, they have a really good trio of seniors between the Bentley twins. And then they've got that Byron Beverly, who's like a 6'9" sophomore who I've just been hearing good things. So Alder should be, I think, probably one of the best teams, but not only this year, but I mean, they next few years, I think they're going to be a team that is probably one of the best in the state in their division, just based off of the talent that they have in this younger class.
Yeah, Jonathan Alder got to the regionals last year. And I think they're kind of reloading. Like, they have a lot in the pipeline. You talked about Byron, it's actually Byerly.
Oh,
And then you're good. I thought it was Beverly at first too, but then they've got a potential stud in Danny Bentley, who is going to be a sophomore.
mm-hmm.
And he's got a lot of growing to do, and he made some huge plays as a freshman last year for them. Um, I just love the system they run. Coach Derek Dickey does a great job. My guy Scott Heiss, his son Peyton is playing at Mount Vernon, and he's been phenomenal so far. They just got a great culture, and they just find ways to win. So I'm gonna take Jonathan Alder to win the league. I'm gonna take the sophomore Danny Bentley. The thing I'm excited a lot about this specific Kenton Trail division is the sophomore class. There's a lot of guys that have potential to be really, really good. Drew Dixon, who's a coach's kid at Urbana. We talked about Byron already. Danny's brother Trey is also a really solid player. He's a great football player as well. And then Luke Johnson, who's another coach's kid, new coach at London, is going to be probably London's best player this year as a
Yeah.
sophomore. So the future is really bright for the CBC. So those who like rural or small town basketball, go check them out. Like those sophomores can really play, and they're all going to be high level players even this year for varsity. Um, Okay, let's go ahead and move on to Mad River. So Mad River division is Indian Lake, Ben Logan, Graham, North Union, Northwestern, and Shawnee. I guess I'll kind of start here. I'm taking Indian Lake. They won it last year. They've got a really nice core coming back. Um, it kind of starts and ends with Brody Reisinger, who's a really tough 6'4" forward. He's a junior, and they have a good point guard in Avery Pickanu, who is a great shooter and just is always in the gym. Like I see this kid everywhere, every camp, every workout. Like he really works and wants to be a great basketball player and is. Both those were first team all league last year. Just to kind of highlight a couple of the other teams, North Union under Austin Terrell. It's his second year as a head coach. They've got some really nice players too. They have that Danian Lindsay, who's a really good athlete, and then Nick Hajar. So they're going to be really competitive. And then Northwestern, I don't expect them to compete for the title, but they've got a point guard that may be the top scorer in the CBC. His name is Mason McDermott, and he is a junior. He's a phenomenal player as well, and he was a first team all league performer as a sophomore. So I just expect him to get better as well. Um, all in all, I'm taking Indian Lake, and then my player of the year is Brody Reisinger. Who did you take, and who is your player of the year?
I'm also going with Indian Lake, and I'm going to go with Brody's teammate, though, Avery Pickanu.
I like it. Got to go with the senior. It's going to be real tight between those two. Um, you know, um, so I'm looking forward to that race. Okay, let's go ahead and move on to the CCL. It's kind of the diminished CCL. There's only 4 teams in it now after Bishop Reedy departed a couple years ago.
Yeah.
But the teams are Bishop Hartley, Bishop Watterson, St. Charles, and St. Francis de Sales. I'll go ahead and let you start with this one. Bishop Hartley is a heavy favorite. Do you think that they'll win the league this year?
Yeah, absolutely. Not only did they win the league last year, they really bring back pretty much everybody, except for Jaden Calloway, Jakai's older brother, who's now at Gannon, a Division II program. But Jakai Calloway is just an exceptional talent. He just signed with Kent State today. He's just such a fun player to watch, quick hands, great two-way guard. But he's not alone. A guy I really like is Christian King in the backcourt with him. Christian is, I think, just one of those unsung heroes, that the dude that doesn't really get maybe like huge numbers, but he does a lot of the little things, and I think he's really earned his way into that varsity rotation, and will be a nice contributor for them this year as well. Caleb O'Neal, great shooter, so he gives them some a nice piece on the wing, and then Marcus Hemphill, he is just a really solid guy to play in the post, athletic, rebounds well. So Hartley, they just keep getting better and better in the Andreas James era, and I don't think they're going to be anywhere close to being stopped from winning another CCL title.
I don't think so either. I think Bishop Hartley is too deep, and they've got their culture of great ball pressure defensively, trapping, and transition game. They've really ironed it out, and it's really hard to handle. Andreas James, one of my guys, every year he's been there, they've gotten better. I think they're going to be even better this year, even though they're losing Jaden, but um, I think they're going to win the league. And Jakai Calloway, the Kent State commit, is going to win Player of the Year. I will highlight, though, I do think Bishop Watterson's going to be solid. Um, and then also DeSales. DeSales has a couple of nice players that are going to be getting more varsity minutes.
Yeah,
Leandre Marshall Neal's a really good point guard for them, and then also a big Grant Weekly, pretty skilled big inside. So I could see one of those teams giving Hartley maybe a game. But in all, I just think Hartley's too talented, too deep, too athletic.
yeah. So I think Hartley's going to run away with this league. I still think we'll see some good performances from DeSales. As you mentioned, Grant Weekly, really solid player. Frankie McAllister, who I know is a tremendous football player, also is a solid contributor for them. David, again, apologies on the last names here. Amanakwa, I want to say.
A
Um,
Manqua. I'm pretty sure it's a Manqua. I could be
Manqua,
wrong.
okay. Okay, so that makes a nice core to kind of help fill in the void of PJ Knowles graduating, who was the district player of the year in their division. Watterson, they lost a lot of seniors too. But Vince Lombardo, he just has an ability to you know what you're getting out of Watterson, no matter who's really there. I was a big Dominic Theotto fan, and I know he's going to be a tough guy to replace. Landon Johnson's another one, but it's Watterson's kind of like no matter who they have, they're going to give everybody their best punch, and so I expect them to still be a competitive team. St. Charles, they've been down pretty much ever since Chase Walker graduated. They do bring back a couple guys that made the honorable mention all district team last season, Charlie Coasters and Marcus Nathan. So maybe we'll see some improvements from St. Charles. And just one last thing I'd like to add, I miss Reedy being in this division. It just felt more complete. I felt like they were it made for some really good rivalries, and I'm sure they switched conferences for other sports purposes. But I don't know. I just wanted to add that I miss Reedy because I feel like they'd be a fun team in this division too. So I think we're on the same page though. This is Hartley's division conference to win, and Ja'Kai Calloway, he's the man.
All right. Love it. Let's get into excuse me. Let's get into some fact or fiction here.
Okay.
And then we'll get to comments because we do have some comments. So the first one, fact or fiction, Columbus Academy and Bishop Hartley will both go undefeated in their leagues. And it's kind of a two-part question, I guess. If so, or if fiction, I guess, which one is more likely to lose a game?
I'm gonna go fiction. I think Hartley will go undefeated in their league. I think Academy may lose a game or two, probably to Reedy. That would probably be the one team I could see them losing to. Um, so I'm going to go fiction on that one. What say you?
That's a tough one. I'm going to go fiction, but I don't love it. I
Yeah.
could t- I could see them both doing it. I'm actually gonna kind of go opposite you here and say that Hartley has the better chance of losing a game. Um, I do think losing Jaden is going to hurt in terms of scoring quite a bit, and I do think that DeSales, Watterson, and even St. Charles are pretty solid. I guess there's probably less opportunities to lose a game because there's less teams, but
Sure.
I'm gonna go with Hartley on that one. If
Okay.
there was one to lose.
Well,
Um,
and to your point too, even though I think Hartley is a team that can honestly contend for a state title, their conference is a little more competitive than what Academy has to go through. So even though I think maybe Academy's not as strong as they were last year, I think they do have a little bit of an easier conference to be able to maybe achieve that undefeated season. So that's a good question though. We'll see what happens.
cool. Alrighty, number two, fact or fiction, will three Columbus City League teams win a district title? You had three teams that you thought could win it, so I'll
Yeah.
kind of let you answer this one first.
So there's three teams in the City League. I think have the potential and should have the expectation to win the a district title. So you've got Northland in Division Two, Centennial in Division Three, and then Afrocentric in Division Five. Um, Afrocentric, absolutely. I think Afrocentric will definitely win a district title. So that's one. Let's count down then. Two. So we got Centennial. Oh boy, that's a tough one. I think they have the potential to, and just the way that the divisions have spanned out, you don't have to win as many games to win a district title. So I'm gonna go, yeah, I'm gonna go with Centennial is able to achieve a district title, and then we have Northland, who has a lot of talent, but the struggle with Northland for the last several years has been they pretty much are the top of the class in the city league, but then come tournament time, they've really kind of struggled against their OCC counterparts. Last year they kind of had a tough game against New Albany in the district finals. So I think that may happen again. So I'm going to go fiction. I think we're going to get two um, district title teams from the City League. Definitely Africentric, and then actually it's probably going to be a coin flip between Centennial and Northland. So that's where I'm going to land at with two.
I am going to say fiction as well. I am going to say that Afrocentric does win a district, but I'm going to say that Centennial and Northland do not. So I'll say one of the three.
Okay.
Uh, all right. Number 3, fact or fiction. Will Jason Singleton be a Mr. Basketball finalist? Great question.
I am going to go with fact for this one for a couple of reasons. One, Jason's one of the best players in Ohio. Say no more. But also two, um, he's just going to have to carry on just such a huge scoring load. Like I really can see him potentially averaging 25 points per game. So I think when you add in the factor of his high production, the fact that he is one of the best players in Ohio, he's a good kid. I just think he's going to be an attractive candidate for voters to include him as a finalist.
I'm going fact as well. I think he's a top 5 player in Ohio, maybe even top 3. And I just think he's a freak. I just think he's just unstoppable once he gets downhill, gets to his spots. Just a phenomenal player. And the cool thing about him too is that he just got a lot better over the span of like a really short time. Like he wasn't as dominant as he was last year before that. Like he really worked on his game and just got a lot better. I
Yeah.
love players that do that. And they don't need to bounce around to different places or transfer or whatever to get better. Like he just stayed where he was. He's loyal, and he's gonna go to Harvard for it. So congratulations
Yeah,
to
no, I
Jason.
love that for him. He's created his own path. He had a lot of offers, maybe from some high major programs and high major conferences, things like that. Could have followed where his dad went, to Ohio State. So for the fact that he doing his own path, going to Harvard, is just really admirable about him, and he'll be a really fun player for us to watch this season.
Yeah, disappointing he didn't go to Ohio State as a Buckeye fan. I'm not gonna be happy, but it's all good. Okay. Number 4. So this isn't a fact or fiction, but it's a question that I wanted to throw in here. And it's something we're both very passionate about. Uh, what is some best pizza places in the locations that we've talked about? I'll go first since I don't have as many. And then you can kind of talk about the 270 Hoops Pizza Tour,
Yeah.
which you've done in the past. One is Fat Daddy's, which is PHAT, in London. Fantastic pizza. They've also got great stromboli and salad if you like that. I like it, so that's why I mentioned it. And then Tommy's, which is actually near Upper Arlington, so it's not technically in these areas, but Tommy's Pizza is my current favorite pizza place. Go ahead and talk a little bit about the tour and the pizza places that you want to shout out here.
Yeah, so I'm entering my sixth season covering 270 hoops. And when I got started, it was like kind of that first year that it was like getting out of COVID. And we're never really able to like sit in and dine in at restaurants. So I was always picking up pizzas on the way home after I covered a game. And so when I'd write my articles, I would just, try new pizza places. And what I love about it is I go all over Central Ohio and it allows me to check out some of my favorite places I love returning to, and then also some places I always like to try. So I made a limited list off of kind of the areas that we've talked about so far. For the City League North, if I am covering a game in the City League North territory, you got to check out Torita's. It's up there on Cleveland Avenue, kind of that Cleveland Morris area. Been around, I think, since the 60s. That place is awesome. So Torita's is one of my favorite pizzas in all of Columbus. City League South, this is kind of a combination of like your West Side Columbus schools and some of the Southwest City schools like Franklin Heights. Emilio's right there on Georgesville and Sullivan, very good pie if you're out there on the far west side. And then CBL conference that features Grandview. I think Grandview has some of the best pizza just collectively in all of Central Ohio. Two of my favorites in Grandview are Rotolo's and Panzera's. Shout out to my guy Carlo who owns and runs Panzera's. And then last, if I'm doing like a Central Catholic game, Central Catholic League, Pizza House, which is like off like Sinclair Road. So it's like not too far from DeSales, not too far from Watterson. Pizza House is another old school throwback Columbus gym that I would recommend checking out. But I did want to give a shout out. I like the pizza. It's not my favorite though, but I love TT Murph's right there on Livingston near Bishop Hartley. It's a Hartley restaurant. It's a Hartley hang. So anytime I cover Hartley games, I like going there. And what's cool is they actually like live stream the games while they're going on, the Bishop Hartley game. So like I'll be there. I can see like JV games still going on, so I know how much time I need to make it over to the varsity game. So if you're checking out Hartley or even like Walnut Ridge, check out TT Murphs.
I definitely will. This is my first year with 270, so I haven't had the chance to check out all these cool places. But I'm looking forward to doing it, and hopefully I don't gain too much weight in the process. Okay. Let's get to this bonus question, and we won't spend a ton of time on this, because I do want to get to some comments. So, this is a question that's been going around for a few years, and I think it's eventually gonna get here. Um, what do you think about the shot clock in Ohio high school basketball? I know there's other states that have done it, and implemented it recently. So, what are your thoughts on the shot clock?
I'm a huge proponent for it. I think it's badly needed. I'm encouraged that we're getting to a point where we're actually trying it at some showcases this year in games that actually matter. I'm not sure what exactly they're putting the shot clock at, if it's going to be like 35 seconds or 40 seconds maybe. But I think that it'll help prepare kids that want to play at the college level. And then also, it just makes the quality of games better. I think probably the least exciting thing is when it's a fourth quarter of a tight game and you just see teams holding the ball, killing clock for like more than a minute. Like that's not basketball. That's not fun. No one likes that. I don't necessarily blame coaches for doing that strategy. They're trying to win the game.
Yeah, not at all.
But I hope that these trial runs that we're going to see throughout the upcoming season show that it can work and it starts to become a normal thing moving forward.
Yeah, I've heard some excuses too, and I don't love them. They're not really good ones. One of them is that we'll have to install the clocks, which again, like people build new gyms, like it just stuff happens. Like you just have to evolve, right? And I've also heard that the scorekeepers won't be able to run the shot clock. It's not very hard. I've done it and I'm very untrained with that kind of stuff. You just have to push a button to reset the shot clock. I'm down with the shot clock as well. Like I'm not like I've coached at a few programs that love to pass and catch essentially, and take a lot of time off. And I don't, again, like you said, I don't blame coaches that want to do that, especially if they're trying to win games because that's the ultimate goal.
Right.
But it gets with some teams, it gets to the point where you have a 4 point lead in like the second quarter and they'll start holding the ball. Like I'm not even, or I'm not even joking. Like it's just not good basketball. And a lot of coaches run offenses where there's just not any dribbling. It's just kind of like passing around the perimeter, like go screen away and then just look inside, I guess. And they're just super, super patient. Like I understand there's pros and cons to it. But again, like you said, preparing people for college basketball, it makes the game more exciting and it adds more strategy. It gives teams that are losing a chance to come back. Now, I'm gonna quote actually from an interview recently, Greg Nossman, coach of Olentangy Liberty, and he made a good point that basically saying that he doesn't want the clock to tell his players when to shoot the ball. Like I totally get that, and like I understand that it would be a big change. But I think even if you just put on for 40 seconds, like 40 seconds is
Right.
plenty of time to get a shot off, a quality shot, right? And I think if you did that with how fast basketball is now anyway, I don't think there'd be a lot of teams that would be hoisting up a bad shot at the end of the shot clock or any shot clock violations. I think it's going to be pretty limited. So I'm totally for the shot clock. Thankfully, I think we're going to end up getting it pretty soon. But that's my take on that. So, all right, let's go ahead and real quick get to some comments. So, we have MF Devin, who's commented a few times. We appreciate that. So, first comment was that the City League is going to be up in the air this year, which we both kind of agree with that, although we both agreed on who was going to win it. Um, but he also asked the question, does Columbus Academy fall just short again of the state championship this year? I don't know if you have a formed opinion about that yet, obviously with no brackets and it's the beginning of the year, but do you want to kind of answer that question?
Yeah, I think that the better question is, will Columbus County even make the state tournament again this year? So, again, that's no slight or like disrespect to Jason Singleton, who we all have said is, one of the best players in Ohio. And sometimes you got the best top three, top five player in Ohio. He can will you to a state tournament or a state title game. Um, but they, like I mentioned earlier, they just lost so much that I think it's going to be a really big challenge for them to get back there, even with the talent of Singleton. So I think they're going to have uh, an uphill battle just to make it to Dayton.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. I just think that losing Caden Ivory specifically is just such a big loss for that team. I do think they will be good though. Obviously, we both think that, but I agree. It's going to be an uphill battle. Let me just ask a couple other questions here from the comment section. So, will and we kind of talked about this last episode too, but do you think that Bishop Hartley will break through and get to the state final four this year?
I do. Yeah, I think Hartley's going to have the best season we've seen from them in recent memory, and they even though they lose Jaden Calloway, I think we're going to just see those guys we talked about earlier that are returning, which is a good core, all improve, and they weren't far away from it last year. So with a guy like Ja'Kai Calloway to kind of lead the charge, I do expect them, I think, to have a very real shot to make Dayton.
I'm gonna agree with you on that one. We're both very high on the Hawks. Um, all right, last one. Let's see here. Would you take? Do you believe that a sophomore will win Player of the Year in the Central Buckeye Conference? We both agreed. Yes, we both think our. I picked Danny Bentley from Jonathan Alder to win Player of the Year in the Kenton Trail. Did you pick him as well? I don't
I
remember.
did, yeah,
You did.
but I
Okay.
like Luke Johnson a lot from London,
Yep.
so I think Alder's going to probably be the better team, so that will give Danny the edge. But those are two really good players, so I like those picks.
All right. Okay. Well, that is all we have. Once again, I appreciate everyone who joined the Around 270 Hoops podcast on YouTube Live. Check your Spotify tomorrow and Apple Music. It should be uploaded. And we're looking to do these weekly, but we'll kind of see. I'd love to get some interviews going with some coaches or players, and maybe some other guys that cover high school hoops around the state. Look forward to more podcasts and just more exciting content from 270 Hoops. Once again, please subscribe to our YouTube channel, our Substack, and our social media to follow 270 Hoops all year. It's that time of year. It's basketball season. Me and Greg are going to be out covering games. If you see us, make sure you say hi. Other than that, I appreciate everyone's time. And Greg, I appreciate your time again. Looking forward to hopefully doing this next week.
Thanks, Luke.